Hey everyone, Gary Miller here, and in this video, I'm going to break down my very first pressure washing job. And not only was it my first paid gig, but it was for a commercial opportunity and it was for multi-million dollar clients. So there was a lot of pressure on this one. I have about 7 hours of footage that I'm going to break down. Don't worry, it's time lapse. I'm going to just really share a lot of the process behind it. I don't really have a clear plan for where the next few videos of this series is going. I'm just trying to document this process, capture it for any of those of you who might be interested in what it's like to go from consulting to a in-person physical job, or anyone out there trying to get started on their own. Whoever it is that's watching this video now, I really just hope that you enjoy this process, me sharing my genuine and honest thoughts on going through this experience. And if you want to stay up to date with new videos, please go ahead, like, subscribe, and I'd love to hear from you down in the comments. So that being said, to preface this a little bit, how I actually landed this job, I talked about it a bit in the last video, talking about going from consulting to pressure washing. But essentially, I got into tennis. I've really fallen in love with tennis and racket sports in general, like paddle as well, PADEL. And I've just been playing a ton since about February of this year. And with that, I've been going to country clubs and schools and parks to play with all different types of people. And sure enough, when I went to one of the country clubs, when I was just starting up the pressure washing business, I basically started talking with an opponent we were playing with and found out that he was actually looking for a pressure washer. And I found out he was one of the owners of one of the biggest chains, here in town. It's been around for almost 32 years here in Bryan College Station, called Aggieland Outfitters. So I'm going to be sharing the full process, breaking it down, my thoughts going into it, have some nice before and afters for y'all. So that being said, let's go ahead and hop over to the time lapse. All right, so yeah, I went ahead and showed up to the lot a few days after I had met the owner, just one of the mornings to check things out. As you could see, there was some molding in the drive-in. There was a little bit of tire marks as well on the actual concrete, and especially on the curbs here, as you can see. So pretty heavy tire marks, as well as some rust stains that I'm going to show here in a second. He actually was really focused specifically on those heavy rust stains that I'll talk about here later in the video, as well as some of the light rust stains like this. But basically, I took a quick look at everything. I was like, okay, cool. This is a good opportunity. There's definitely some areas that need to be improved here, focusing on the tire marks, the rust stains, and overall just the general mildew, especially near the back of the parking lot. Dirt and debris and mold really started to pile up near the drains. And so I was really looking forward to this before and after as well. So we're hopping right into the job, but I'll tell you all, there was a ton of just thinking and practically dreaming about this job, making sure I was getting all the solutions right. So as you can see there, I just sprayed a combination of bleach and a degreaser that I found from a Tractor Supply. And I only wanted to focus on a small area to start, just to make sure there wouldn't be any wild reactions. And I went ahead and pressure washed, the curb as well. So as you can see, it's kind of dark right now. I showed up at 5 a.m. One of the mornings. I was under the impression that some of the lights were going to be on in the parking lot, but unfortunately they were not. And so the next few mornings that I'll talk about here in a little bit, that you'll see, I got started probably around 6:30, 6:45. So I had to rely on my camera light here, as well as some of the light from the actual store on the inside. And so I was able to get by here. And so as you can see, I was spraying, the mixture first, and then right here, I'm actually rinsing. So after I actually cleaned with the surface cleaner that you can see off to the left, when I cleaned it with that, it still left some dirty water and still some of the bleach and degreaser. And so a lot of this job was just rinsing, getting all of the dirty water. You can also see a dog there. A random little stray ran up, and I think you actually saw him a couple mornings. He came back, a few other times during this job, but I was like, okay, this is pretty random, but he's not really getting into much. I didn't want him to get into the bleach or anything, but yeah, he was fine. So I went ahead and moved on to the next area. You can see the degreaser is mainly the one that's kind of like sudsing up quite a bit. And it was really satisfying to see, with the actual surface cleaner. There were certain times where I actually put a bit too much degreaser, and it was hard to see the lines where I was actually tracing with the surface cleaner. But you'll see in a few clips coming up here about how satisfying it is really just to see, a line of clean concrete versus the dirty concrete, and the surface cleaner just really takes it right off. And so I'm going section by section here, just making sure I'm covering all the areas. The markings of the dirty concrete just really made it very easy for me to see where I had actually been and where I hadn't. And so after I always clean a section, I go back and rinse. And so, like I would say, rinsing probably took up majority, of the actual job time here, just going back and forth, making sure all the dirty water is moving towards that area. And I chose to start at the top of the parking lot because also doing some research that, if I were to start at the bottom and eventually when I get to the top, that dirty water is still going to run down towards that area. And so I wanted to make sure I started from the top, everything drained down that was dirty, and then I finished the dirtiest area last. And so I just took care of the actual curb here. I used initially kind of like a pump sprayer to get some stronger solution on the curb, but realized I could just spray it with the X-Jet, basically, which allowed me to spray chemical downstream. As you can see, the sun is coming up here. I got a really nice aesthetic shot. But yeah, I'm doing this back section here, and you can see all that kind of soap. And eventually later, you'll be able to see the dirty water kind of run off here as I'm actually, finishing up a section with a surface cleaner. I also did find the pressure washer with a 40 degree tip made it pretty easy to actually push water down very fast, but you can also kind of risk potentially like, I didn't want to do it too much because I didn't want to potentially etch anything or get it too close. But you can see this line here as I come down. There's a line to the left where it's clean, and then to the right where it's a little curved and it's dirty. I'm just like covering this whole area here. After the sun came up, it made it really, really easy to see, a lot easier to see. And you can see I could just melt that away there. So um, as someone just recently getting into pressure washing, it is incredibly satisfying to see the surface cleaner, do its job. And I was really happy with the results. The degreaser really removed a lot of the tire marks that were actually on the concrete, and it worked very well for the tire marks on the actual curb as well. So I'm just making my way here. I was like, at this rate, I could get through this full job in one day. And so I was just cranking away, cranking away. But as some of you might remember, I had gotten a pressure washer from Facebook Marketplace and picked it up pretty much half the price of what it would have cost brand new. And I was like really kind of banking on, okay, this pressure washer's got to hold out for me, no issues. And so it did run for about 4 to 5 hours the first day. And honestly, it was working like a champ. And you'll see here in a little bit when I get to it after I finish up, I believe this wrench or maybe the next, that definitely did its job, but there were a few tweaks that I needed to make, right? So I'm finishing up with the rinse. I was like, I'm making good progress. I estimated this job would probably take about 2 to 3 days. And to actually talk about kind of how I quoted this job, I found it on Google Earths. I did a full breakdown of like basically Google Earths, and I pulled it up and then measured it and was able to find the square footage, then multiplied a rate times the square footage. So as you can see, this is after the first day's job. You can see the fuel pan there actually had some cracks in it. Again, a little bit closer. It was just vibrating like crazy, and some of the bolts had actually broke loose. So I was like, okay, I need to stop. I can't keep running this. One of the screws was kind of wiggling out the backside of the exhaust as well. And also oil had sprayed all over the pump, and the actual pressure washer itself had lost a lot of oil. And so you can see some gaskets there. And I ordered some equipment on Amazon, made sure it was all next day, had to take about a day break between the jobs, and got to work at 8 p.m. That night. So unfortunately, this is a bit of a mistake. It took a lot longer than I would have expected. So you can see here that I'm actually taking off the pump here, and there's the shaft. I went ahead and got some sandpaper here a little bit and kind of clean that off. There's a better look at it, and that connects into the pump and then basically spins and makes the pump actually work. And so you just screw it into the back there, and it works all great. So I had to actually remove the oil seal here. So I tried screwing into the side of it. I heard that was the best way to do it, especially if it was stuck. And then grab the screw with a plier and pull. And as you can see, I actually kind of like launched myself back into the side and couldn't actually get it out. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to replace this oil seal as well as the entire crankshaft gasket. So I had to open up the engine. And by this point, it was like 10 p.m. I'm like, all right, you know what? This is gonna be a good story. Let's make it happen. Pulled it open, and it actually was really happy with the way it looked on the inside. It had ran for about 4 or 5 hours and really cleaned things up. But I had to get rid of this old gasket. There were definitely some kinks in it. The main issue was the seal, as you see that I get out here in a little bit. But I had to literally take an X-Acto blade and just get underneath this gasket. It was really, really well stuck. It had been there for I don't know how many, how long. This was a refurbished engine, so it probably wasn't too long. But I cleaned it up, and then I tried to take another crack at the actual crankshaft here, or the seal. And so I eventually popped it out with the back of a hammer. It was super satisfying. I got some sandpaper and went around it. And then unfortunately I lost the footage of putting the actual gasket back on. and I fired it up here, and it worked just fine. There was kind of like a loud squeaky noise. After doing some more research, I found out that was probably just due to the crankshaft seal being new and a lot of the oil you're not really getting into place yet. But at this point, it was probably about midnight, close to 1 a.m. And I was like, okay, I'm just glad this is done. And let me go ahead and just reinstall this into the back of the truck. And then I went ahead and got everything set up and went back the next day. So this is actually about 2 days later from that first day. I had to have a little bit of a gap just to make sure I could get the parts in and do everything right. So came back to the lot. You can kind of see not really a clear line from where it's dirty, where it's clean in the top left. And so I was really happy with the way the concrete came out when it was dried. So I went ahead and moved on to the next section here. As I also had to get kind of the driveway, and I sprayed the bleach and degreaser solution and got to work. So I was ready to go a lot faster this time, as I kind of had a system down now, making sure everything was in place, all the chemicals were mixed, everything was properly coated with water beforehand and the solution, and I just started kind of cranking away as soon as I could. So I got out there, I think around 6:30, 6:45, and just powering away. Did a bigger section this time. As you can see, it did get a little bit soapy, so it's kind of hard for me to see where my lines were for the surface cleaner, and I just made sure I stayed on track. And you'll see kind of later on, I got some additional spots here that I missed. I didn't want to go back over spots that I missed with the surface cleaner as much because it can kind of etch concrete and it can leave a bit of an uneven clean. So I would just leave kind of certain dashes and skids, come back to them and handle them with a pressure washer later on. So I got the curbs about 10 seconds ago in this footage, and now I'm just rinsing. You can see I'm just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. While it does take quite a long time, it is pretty satisfying just to see all the dirt and the grime, the soap and everything just kind of bundle up and move towards that drain, and you get to see that clean concrete. But yeah, this is by far probably the most time-consuming part of any of the flat work that I'm going to be doing, and some heavier debris there, kind of from near the trees, near the trash cans. I was getting up and just making sure it was going towards the drain. And so you can also see that kind of clear line where I left off, where all the dirt is. There's a line above it, and then the clean concrete. Again, this is just like super satisfying for me to see. And so I went ahead and just kind of cleared some additional area there, and then I got ready to tackle this back section. So there was a ton of, you can see how clear that line is there. There was a ton of like debris and just mud and stuff like that near the actual curb. And so you'll see I kind of get to that later, just making sure I'm having nice straight strokes going back and forth, going slow enough that it doesn't leave like any uneven cleaning or anything. But as I got closer to that curb, water started to pile up, and I was just kind of walking through, basically about an inch of water. Luckily, the surface cleaner was able to kind of move things around, and I was able to still get everything clean. But just interesting to kind of see how the cleaning process worked when it was dealing with a lot of water. So coming back here, rinsing again, making sure I'm pushing everything down the drain here, and overall was really happy with the finished result, right? So spraying that, this area probably had the best before and after, just in terms of like getting rid of all that mud and that debris and that dirt. But I actually found that the pressure washer with the tip allowed me to kind of actually push a lot of that water out through the drain, so it didn't leave a lot of that standing dirty water. When I was trying to rinse with just like the open ball valve, it didn't have enough real power to be able to kind of push all the water into the drain. This area I was the most happy with. I had a really nice even spray. You can see that before and after line there, and just really did a really good job on this section. And I was getting a lot more efficient through this process. Also having to manage the pressure washer line while I'm actually using the surface cleaner was very interesting. So I found that if I just turned around, I could get it to come off to like the side of me, and I wasn't stepping over it or running over it. And so just little efficiencies like that, I was getting better, pretty quickly, and I was pretty happy to see that. So got the curbs here, got them nice and blasted. Used about a 40-degree tip. And that was really satisfying, seeing all the tire marks come off. And you could also kind of see some of the grime there that I wasn't able to get with the surface cleaner on the curb, get that up as well. So pretty much here at this point, I just had to have a rinse, and then I was just done with the main lot. The owner actually wanted me to do the walkway as well. And so at this point, it was getting pretty later in the day. I didn't really want to tackle it, while they were open at this point. And so I decided just to come back the next day and make sure to get everything finished up. You can see all that dirty water that piled up from the whole parking lot pretty much there, just going out the drain there. And so that was just like super satisfying to see. So spraying it with the pressure washer, I was able to actually get it out the drain, and that was a really nicely clean lot. So now I'm going ahead and trying to tackle some of these rust stains. So I sprayed something called CLR on it. I had to make sure it was actually on dry concrete, and I scrubbed it really good. It stands for calcium lime rust, and then I rinsed it. This is pretty much one of the only rust stains I was able to get up so far, because there's more light of a light rust stain. I did it on dry concrete, and I went and tried to handle some of the heavier rust stains. Unfortunately, I made the mistake of spraying them with water first. They actually need to be done with other stuff. Here's me actually getting a respirator to handle with bleach, but I come back to those stains a little bit later. So when I came back to the driveway the third day, basically I saw that the parking lot, it didn't necessarily have like mold or anything, but like there were still some lines from where I actually did some work, and I wanted to make sure it had another top coat of bleach. So I just sprayed it, put the respirator on, got about a 1 to 3% solution, about a 3% solution, and then I just sprayed the driveway and let that kind of cure. And overall, it was a really good finish result. So I started spraying the sidewalk here, got that taken care of. This actually technically, I don't think was part of the job. I think he was more talking about the actual left side going around the building, but I got it anyway, so it was some good practice. And even though I guess it was more public, I still, I guess I did my public duty of cleaning that sidewalk there. So this is the front of the building. Had a really, really cool, gig 'em thumbs up. That area in the corner there was actually rusted, and so I have to come back to that later on. I'll talk about what I kind of do later on. But I rinsed the area, moved everything down into the drains, and overall was pretty happy with the finished result here. Aside from that rust spot, of course. So talking about the rust again, I ended up ordering a stronger. You see me kind of wrap things up here, and that was pretty satisfying. Definitely the hose reel has been a huge, huge help. And so I ordered kind of a stronger solution called F9 Bark. That's going to be coming in, and as of this video, beginning of September, I'm going to be coming back and kind of cleaning up some more of those heavy rust stains, and I'll try to record that as well. So before and after, these curbs look awesome. Was super happy with these results. Really bright concrete. Had the bleach on there. This is kind of a nice wider shot. Overall, got rid of a lot of the tire marks, got rid of some of the heavy, tire marks there in that area. And then one of the rust stains I showed y'all earlier, here's a whole lot. I was able to get rid of that as well. So that was super satisfying. And so, yeah, here's basically the finished, product here. I took the opportunity to take some nice branding, marketing images. I actually had someone come out with a drone, take some video of me. And while I was there getting pictures, I actually saw this area in the walkway that I missed yesterday still actually had some spots on it. So in my little nice, A&M maroon uniform, I just kind of rigged up real quick and just took care of some of the grime, on the curb here, and actually was able to kind of blast this here. All right, so that's a wrap on my first ever commercial job, and I gotta tell y'all, it was really with an amazing client. Aggieland Outfitters, being here in the heart of Aggieland, Bryan College Station. They've been around for over 30 years. They're an empire here. Everybody knows their name, and so really getting this opportunity right off the bat of getting things started, I'm just feeling incredibly grateful for, and it definitely feels like a bit of divine intervention. So really, really grateful for that opportunity, and some might call it luck. I always say luck is preparation plus opportunity. So I know how hard I've trained over the past few years with, sales and networking and looking presentable. And I know that it's all the hard work coming together. But with that being said, it was really just an awesome opportunity. Definitely not going to lie, it was a bit of a challenge, but I like to say I'm somebody who thrives, on a challenge, and it forced me into, optimization, into go mode. And so, like I said earlier in the video, I was practically dreaming about this job, just going over again and again, talking with ChatGPT about the mixtures and the ratios and the right chemicals and the amount of gas that I would need and the square footage and the total number of jobs that this day will take, the total number of days that this job will take. But it was a good experience. It was a challenge. I really enjoyed it, and have since moved on to doing a few homes and Traditions, which is another country club here in town, mainly with Aggies, right? And so I'm kind of falling back into, I guess, my heritage here of where I went to school, and I'm really feeling glad that I went to college here as well, and been able to give back to my community and start kind of fostering that local community side of things. So with that being said, when it comes to these videos, I love to hear what y'all be interested in me talking about, down in the comments. I'm definitely right now just nerding out a lot at the process and, my thoughts behind it. But, my wife and I have been getting a lot into history more recently, and, some spirituality side of things. Also, masculinity is something that's very important to me, being a father, being a husband, being the best man that I can be. And so I'd be curious to hear if any of y'all might be interested in having a certain spin, on my monologues while I'm breaking down more of these long form content videos. And so I also have plans to be doing some nice shorts on LinkedIn and here on YouTube as well. And so we'll kind of see what the overall vibe is. But I think my main goal, I want to be able to get more clients here locally, help them, grow the actual business. But I do want to be leaving, this footprint for you all, whether you're getting started in the business, you want to follow it yourself, or you just are interested in what it's like in starting a new business, from scratch. So I really hope you enjoyed. If you could you could comment, subscribe, I would really appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to seeing y'all in the next video. Take care.